You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Tamil Nadu to visit Maharashtra later today will lay the foundation stones of several developmental projects in both the states. US President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu in spar of words over Gaza conflict after Biden's warning that Israel risks losing global support in the conflict. NATO and leaders from multiple countries reject French President Emmanuel Macron's comment on sending troops to Ukraine. Michigan, a battleground state for the 2024 US presidential primary, is holding the Republican and Democratic primary while Trump is battling Haley in a bid to strengthen his grip on presidential nomination. On to the details now. On the second day of his three states visit, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate and lay the foundation stone of multiple developmental projects in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra. In the public program at Thoothukudi, Prime Minister will lay the foundation stone of Outer Harbour Container Terminal at V.O. Chidambaram Port. The project aims to leverage India's long coastline and favourable geographic location and strengthen India's competitiveness in the global trade arena. Prime Minister will inaugurate various other projects aimed at making the V.O. Chidambaram port as the first green hydrogen hub port of the country. These projects include desalination plant, hydrogen production and bunkering facility, etc. Prime Minister will also launch India's first indigenous green hydrogen fuel cell inland waterway vessel under Harit Nauka initiative. Prime Minister will also dedicate tourist facilities in 75 lighthouses across 10 states and union territories during the program. Prime Minister will also dedicate several road and rail projects. And later on the day, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his visit to Maharashtra will release the 16th installment amount of more than 21,000 crore rupees under the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Through direct benefits transferred to beneficiaries, with this release, an amount of more than 3 lakh crore has been transferred to more than 11 crore farmer families. Prime Minister will also disperse second and third installments of Namo Shetkari Mahasanman Nidhi, benefiting about 88 lakh beneficiary farmers across Maharashtra. Prime Minister will disburse 825 crore rupees of revolving fund to 5.5 lakh women's self-help groups across Maharashtra. Prime Minister will also initiate distribution of 1 crore Ayushman cards across Maharashtra. Prime Minister will launch the Modi Awas Gharkul Yojana for OBC category beneficiaries in Maharashtra. Prime Minister will dedicate to nation multiple irrigation projects benefiting Marathwada and Vidarbha region of Maharashtra. Prime Minister will also inaugurate multiple rail projects worth more than 1,300 crore rupees in the state. Prime Minister will dedicate to nation several projects for strengthening the roads sector there. Well, Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Parnpree Bahiddha-Nukara paid courtesy call on India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankhar at his residence in New Delhi. Discussions underscored the existing civilizational ties, including cultural, linguistic and religious connections on which the present-day India-Thailand robust partnership is based. Well, earlier in the day, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar welcomed Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Thailand Dr. Parnpree Bahiddha-Nukara. Dr. S. Jaishankar and Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister chaired the 10th India-Thailand Joint Commission meeting in the national capital. This is the first official visit to India which is scheduled for 4 days. And India is all set to witness its first ever Startup Mahakumbh, the largest celebration of Indian startups from 18th to 20th of March at the prestigious Bharat Mandapam, New Delhi. The event will cement India's reputation as a melting point of innovation and amplify the country's global startup footprint. The event is expected to host 1,000 plus startups, 10 plus thematic tracks, 1,000 plus investors, 500 plus incubators and accelerators, 5,000 plus conference delegates, 10 plus country delegations, 5,000 plus future entrepreneurs, and 40,000 plus business visitors over the span of 3 days. Speaking at the curtain raiser, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal emphasized that throughout 3 days of Startup Mahakumbh, the startups will be able to engage with investors and relevant stakeholders and create a sub-ecosystem to support each other with ideas and learn from the experience of others.
To the world that this is only a 8 years young startup story, but in less than 8 years we've become the third largest in the world with big aspirations for the future, sporting over 100 unicorns, with a number of good ideas on the anvil to grow and become bigger and better.
Well, India observes National Science Day on 28th of February to honor the great Indian physicist C.V. Raman. This year, the theme of National Science Day is promoting indigenous technologies for Viksit Bharat. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya reports for more.
In the realm of scientific discovery, there are those luminaries whose contributions transcend time, shaping the very fabric of our understanding. On National Science Day, we pay homage to one such luminary, Sir C.V. Raman. A visionary scientist and a beacon of inspiration, C.V. Raman altered the course of science with his groundbreaking discovery, the Raman effect. Every year since 1987, National Science Day is celebrated on the 28th of February to honor the great Indian physicist Sir C.V. Raman, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics. It was on this day in 1928 his discovery of the Raman effect came to light. This year, the theme of National Science Day is promoting indigenous technologies for Viksit Bharat.
This event is celebrated to commemorate the discovery, or rather the announcement of the discovery of Raman effect on 28th February in 1928. Sir C.V. Raman, who discovered this new type of radiation, is also called as Raman effect, Raman scattering, and so on and so forth. Till date, it remains one of the most significant scientific discoveries ever made in India. And this year's theme is Viksit Bharat at 2047.
The Raman effect revolutionized spectroscopy, empowering scientists to probe the intricate nature of matter with unparalleled precision. Raman spectroscopy became a cornerstone in fields ranging from chemistry and physics to biology and material science. But beyond his scientific achievements, C.V. Raman embodied the spirit of curiosity, perseverance, and national pride. His relentless pursuit of knowledge serves as a beacon of hope, inspiring generations to pursue their passions and push the boundaries of human understanding. As India commemorates National Science Day, let us not only celebrate the accomplishments of C.V. Raman, but also reaffirm our commitment to fostering a culture of scientific inquiry and innovation. Happy National Science Day. Tapas Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. After successfully completing the trilateral exercise, Dosti at Maldives, Indian Coast Guard ships Samarth and Abhinav reached the Sri Lankan port of Galle. During the visit, the ships will conduct various training and visits for Sri Lanka Coast Guard personnel. 16th edition of Biennial Dosti validated and strengthened the joint commitment of Coast Guards of India, Sri Lanka and Maldives to stand together for the common good. The sea phase of Milan 2024 concluded on Wednesday. The Indian Navy's participation in Milan 2024 demonstrates its commitment to fostering cooperation and building maritime security partnerships in the Indo-Pacific region. Indian Navy's participation included both aircraft carriers INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant, the indigenous aircraft carrier showcasing India's commitment to safeguarding its maritime. The Indian Navy bolstered its bridging capability with the induction of 46-meter modular bridge designed and developed by Defence Research and Development Organisation of India. The induction of the modular bridge represents a significant step in enhancing the Indian Army's bridging capabilities. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Russia to further escalate the ongoing influence operation in spring to destabilize Ukraine. Brazil's federal police and environmental protection agency rescue native parrots and monkeys suspected of illegal trafficking to Togo. Stay with us to know more. Mumbai camp hopeful of a strong showing in the semi-finals as Shreyash Iyer replaces Suryan Shejay in the squad for the Ranji Trophy semi-finals.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. And moving on, Brazil's federal police and environmental protection agency rescue native parrots and monkeys suspended of illegal trafficking to Togo. Stay with us as we get you details. The animals, including 12 layers, amacors and 17 golden lion tamarins, were found in Togo's capital, Lomé. The animals were in poor condition due to alleged mistreatment and were contaminated with motor oil. The animals are worth between $60,000 to $100,000 in clandestine markets. And the United States said it does not want to see tensions rise further between Israel and Hezbollah, adding that Israel had assured Washington it wants a diplomatic solution.
We do not want to see either side escalate the conflict in the north. And in fact, we are going to continue to pursue a diplomatic resolution of that conflict. And while we saw the defense minister's comments, we have also taken note that repeatedly the defense minister and other officials of the government of Israel, including the prime minister, have said publicly that they would prefer the situation to be resolved diplomatically. And so that's what we're going to continue to pursue. And ultimately, that would make military action unnecessary.
And in his response to U.S. President Biden, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he had consistently resisted pressure to end the conflict prematurely and that this stand of his has popular U.S. support that will help them continue the campaign until total victory over Hamas.
Since the beginning of the conflict, I have been leading a political campaign with the purpose to curb the pressures intended to end the war before its time and, on the other hand, to gain support for Israel. We have significant success in this area because today the Harvard-Harris poll is published in the United States, which shows that 82% of the American public supports Israel. This means that 4 out of 5 citizens in the US support Israel and not Hamas. This gives us another year of strength to continue the campaign until complete victory.
Well, Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu's remarks came after U.S. President Joe Biden warned that Israel risks losing global support in the conflict. On Monday, Biden said the U.S. hopes to have a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in Gaza by next Monday. The U.S. president also suggested later on that Israel could lose support from around the world if it keeps up with this incredibly conservative government they have. And moving on, Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley took aim at former President Donald Trump 1 week before the state's presidential primary election, saying she would be a better candidate against Democratic President Joe Biden. The former South Carolina governor addressed a crowd in Centennial ahead of the state's primary elections on the 5th of March. Nikki Haley also reminded her supporters of a recent comment by Donald Trump encouraging Russia's President Vladimir Putin to invade United States allies. While speaking at the rally in Colorado, Haley also said that Trump will not be able to win a presidential election and that the country's next president will be a woman.
Donald Trump got on stage, went off his teleprompter, and said that he would actually encourage Putin to invade our allies. Now think about what that means. That means Donald Trump's going to side with a tyrant who kills his political opponents. That means Donald Trump is going to side with a thug where 500,000 people have died or been wounded because of Russia invading Ukraine. That means Donald Trump is going to side with a madman who arrests American journalists and holds them hostage. Putin's made no bones about the fact that he wants to destroy America. And Donald Trump's going to choose him over our allies who stood with us after 9/11?
Well, President Joe Biden urged the top 4 leaders of Congress on Tuesday to take swift action to prevent a potential government shutdown and called for a passage of emergency aid for Ukraine and Israel. President Joe Biden said that the U.S. needs to find a solution to fund the government while providing aid to Ukraine and avoiding an economically damaging government shutdown. Biden made the comments during a meeting with leading Democrats and Republicans in the Oval Office of the White House.
We have to replenish the air defenses for Israel, and we have to work on making sure they don't face the threat from, they can face the threat from what's going on in the Middle East, not just from Hamas, but from Iran. And and government funding, I'm sure you guys had all of that all taken care of, but all kidding aside, I think that Congress's responsibility to fund the government. We got to get about doing a shutdown would damage the economy significantly, and I think we all agree to that, and we need bipartisan solutions.
Well, U.S. National Security spokesperson John Kirby confirmed that U.S. troops will not be stationed in Ukraine following French President Emmanuel Macron's statement that France could not rule out sending troops to Ukraine. France's Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné clarified that France could send troops for specific needs, but not for fighting in the war against Russia. Kirby also denied that the U.S. could have non-combat participation in the war. The only U.S. military personnel currently on the ground are part of the Defense Attached Office, NATO allies. Germany, Britain, Italy, Spain, Poland and the Czech Republic distanced themselves from Macron's idea, while the Kremlin deemed a direct conflict between NATO and Russia inevitable.
The only U.S. military personnel that are in Ukraine are associated with the embassy as part of the Defense Attaché office, and they're doing important work in terms of helping us with the accountability of weapons and systems that are provided to Ukraine. The president's been clear there's not going to be U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine.
And Russia will escalate an ongoing influence operation this spring aimed at destabilizing Ukraine and scuppering international support for Kyiv in its 2-year-old conflict with Moscow, Ukrainian intelligence warned on Tuesday. Ukraine is struggling to fend off Russian troops along much of the front line as Kyiv faces challenges in replenishing its ranks and a potential cut in U.S. military aid. The Kremlin will bolster its attack by stepping up efforts to seed disinformation on social media, sparking conflict among Ukrainians and sowing doubt among Kyiv allies of its chances for victory, according to a presidential intelligence committee. Kyiv and its international partners say the war is part of a years-long hybrid effort by Moscow to subjugate Ukraine as it embraces the West. In a statement carried by Kyiv's domestic security and military spy agencies, the committee said the operation would culminate in late May when President Volodymyr Zelensky's 5-year mandate would normally run out. And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky held talks in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and praised the kingdom's efforts in seeking a solution to end the Russia-Ukraine war. A statement on Zelensky's website said the two men discussed Kyiv's peace formula for ending the conflict, and the president thanked the Crown Prince for his valuable advice in finding ways to speed up its implementation. Zelensky and the Crown Prince discussed the content of a peace summit Switzerland has agreed to host later in the year. Also discussed were possible steps for truly restoring security for Ukraine, Europe and the world. The Saudi state news agency said the Crown Prince affirmed the kingdom's keenness and support for all international endeavors and efforts aimed at resolving the Ukrainian-Russian crisis. And the Emir of Qatar has carried out a state visit to Paris where he met French President Emmanuel Macron to discuss the bilateral relationship between Paris and Doha, but also the situation in the Middle East. The two leaders discussed the ongoing possibility of some or all of the hostages still in Gaza being released, a potential ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, and discussions on a future two-state solution. Ross Collin reports from Paris.
Well, the talks taking place on Tuesday at the Élysée Palace, the French presidential office and residence, which you can see behind me here in central Paris. President Macron hosting Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, for an official state visit, state dinner and official bilateral discussions between Paris and Doha about their bilateral relationship, but also crucially the key underlining point of the two men meeting is to try to forward the discussion on the situation in the Middle East. Can there be a deal to release some or all of the hostages still being held by Hamas inside Gaza, who were captured from inside Israel during Hamas's attack on October the 7th? Can there be a deal on a temporary or permanent ceasefire? That's certainly something that the United States President is hopeful of. Also, the continued flow of aid into Gaza during the conflict and also after the conflict. And on that point, can there be an eventual end to the war? What form would the two-state solution take? Now, the Élysée Palace have said very clearly that that is a key priority both for Qatar and for France as well, making sure that there is that option open for the two-state solution after the end of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. But Qatar has played this crucial role. We know that the Prime Minister was here over the weekend for talks with the United States, Israel and Egypt as well. It's the second time that France has hosted those specific four nations to try to get a deal on hostages, on aid and on an eventual end to the conflict. France being the crucial player in hosting those talks, the Qatari Prime Minister here over the weekend, and now on Tuesday for an official state visit, the Emir of Qatar. In Paris, Ross Cullen reporting for DD India.
While ministers and international leaders from the G20 held a meeting in Brazil with President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, putting inequality and poverty as well as climate change at the top of the agenda. Brazil's Environment Minister, Marina Silva Brazil, stressed the need to tackle climate change to avoid further global instability in the celebration of 200 years of diplomatic relations with the United States. The UNDP's administrator, Atom Steiner, said the G20 decisions have immediate consequences in the actions taken by governments in key global issues such as poverty, hunger, inequality and climate change. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva pushed to give developing nations of the Global South a wider platform in G20 meetings during Brazil's presidency. And Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on Tuesday he could not rule out widening a national ban on imports of Ukrainian grains if the European Union does not act to protect the bloc's markets. Poland last year extended a ban on Ukrainian grain imports. Tusk made the remarks during a visit to Prague as thousands of Polish farmers took to the streets, escalating a protest against food imports from Ukraine and EU green rules. And thousands of farmers marched through the Polish capital before reaching the Prime Minister's office. Polish farmers protested in Warsaw, escalating their month-long strike that started early February against food imports from Ukraine and EU regulations intended to curtail climate change. Polish farmers began a series of protests throughout the country early this month, which included a near-total blockade of all Ukrainian border crossings, as well as disruptions at ports and on road nationwide. And Mexico's Popocatépetl volcano erupted on Tuesday, causing smoke and ash columns to rise 2 kilometers from its crater. The National Center for Disaster Prevention warned people to stay away due to over 77 discharges, water vapor, volcanic gases and ash. Local authorities issued a yellow alert, urging residents to be vigilant and prepared for evacuation. Popocatépetl, Mexico's most active volcano, is located 70 kilometers southeast of Mexico City. Well, New York's skyline showed the city blanketed in fog as unpredictable weather swept throughout the United States. Forecasters predict that some U.S. residents will switch from Bermuda shorts to snow pants in less than 24 hours due to a heat wave in the middle plains and south. This week's hot wave comes amid other extreme weather in the U.S., including California's atmospheric river, storms, and historic low ice cover on the Greek lakes. It's difficult to attribute any particular weather pattern to human-caused climate change. And news from around the world now. The Bank of England Museum showcased King Charles III's new polymer £10 note at the Future of Money exhibition in London. The exhibit covers topics like digital currencies, cash lifespan, and banking's environmental impact. Old money notes will be replaced gradually with new ones, which will be shredded and recycled. The exhibition runs until September 2025. Brazil's federal police and environmental protection agency have repatriated native parrots and monkeys suspected of illegal trafficking to Togo. The animals, including 12 Lear's macaws and 17 golden lion tamarins, were found in Togo's capital, Lomé. The animals were in poor condition due to alleged mistreatment and were contaminated with motor oil. The animals are worth between $60,000 to $100,000 on clandestine markets. The animals will need rehabilitation before they are let go to the wild. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault, located in permafrost caves on an island between Europe and the North Pole, has received seeds from the largest number of new contributors yet. The vault, launched in 2008, serves as a backup for the world's gene banks to protect plants from war, disease, and climate change. And in sports, Indian middle order batsman Shreyas Iyer has been included in Mumbai's squad for the Ranji Trophy semi-final to be played in Mumbai on Saturday. Mumbai are set to face Tamil Nadu in the last four clash. Shreyas will replace Suryan Shekre in the squad of 16 that was finalized by Mumbai's selection committee, chaired by former India pacer Raju Kulkarni. When Shreyas had made himself unavailable for the quarter-final citing fitness concerns, it had led to a furore over whether the batter was pacing himself up for the Indian Premier League at the cost of first-class cricket. The Mumbai camp will now be hoping that Shreyas bolsters a wobbly middle order with a strong showing in the semi-finals. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.